Once upon a time, there lived a woman called Mama Ola who lived in Lagos. The city of Lagos buzzed with life and opportunity, but for Mama Ola, life had become increasingly bleak. The passing of her husband had been sudden, leaving her alone to care for their teenage daughter, Ola. Mama Ola was once a housewife, while her husband handled the family's finances. Now, she faced a harsh reality where she had to take on the mantle of breadwinner, with little experience or resources to fall back on. Bills piled up, and food became scarce. Friends and family were sympathetic at first, offering help, but as time went on, they too became scarce. The once lively home turned into a hollow reminder of better days. Mama Ola knew she needed to act fast before things got worse, but every attempt to find a stable source of income had failed. Desperation gnawed at her soul. One night, while lying on her worn mattress, Mama Ola reminisced about her childhood. Her mother used to sell puff puff, a deep-fried snack that was beloved by many in her village. Perhaps I could do the same, she thought. It seemed like a simple solution to her dire circumstances. She would sell puff puff to support her daughter. With renewed determination, Mama Ola borrowed some money from a neighbor and bought the ingredients she needed: flour, yeast, sugar, and oil. The next morning, she set up a small stand on the corner of her street, hoping to attract passers-by with the smell of fresh puff puff. However, things didn't go as planned. The city was full of street vendors selling all kinds of snacks, and puff puff wasn't exactly a novelty. The competition was fierce, and Mama Ola barely made enough to cover the cost of the ingredients. Day after day, she watched as other vendors pulled in more customers, while she struggled to sell even a few pieces. Each night, she went home with disappointment etched on her face. Just as she was about to give up, an old woman approached her one afternoon. The woman looked ancient, her eyes wise and knowing. "You should sell your puff puff late at night," she suggested, her voice raspy but firm. "That's when the real money comes." Mama Ola was puzzled by the advice. Who would buy puff puff at such an odd hour? But with no other options, she decided to take the old woman's advice. That evening, Mama Ola prepared her puff puff with hope fluttering in her chest. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she set up her stand on the same corner, now illuminated by a single flickering streetlight. Despite her optimism, the night dragged on with barely a soul passing by. The city, alive with sounds during the day, felt eerily quiet. Hours passed, and Mama Ola was about to pack up when she saw a shadowy figure approaching. It was a man, dressed in clothes from a bygone era, and he walked with an unusual grace. He approached her stand, and Mama Ola's heart raced with excitement. "Do you sell puff puff?" he asked, his voice deep and smooth. "Yes, I do." "Would you like some?" she replied, trying to suppress her nerves. He nodded and handed her a coin, which gleamed like silver. When she looked closer, she realized it was an old coin, possibly from decades ago. Unfazed, she gave him a warm puff puff, and he took it without hesitation, devouring it in a few bites before vanishing into the night. Mama Ola blinked, astonished. Had she just served a ghost? The rest of the night continued in a similar fashion. More figures, all clad in antiquated clothing, came to her stand. Some were men, some women, but all were silent. They handed her strange coins, and in return, she filled their hands with warm puff puff. Although her customers never uttered a word, they conveyed a deep sense of hunger. As the night drew to a close, Mama Ola couldn't believe her luck. The small bag she had used to collect coins was heavy with old money, far more than she had earned during the day. She couldn't wait to share the news with Ola and treat her to something special. The following night, Mama Ola returned to her corner, her heart filled with hope and an inexplicable excitement. She felt that she had finally found a solution to her troubles. The memory of the ghostly customers lingered in her mind, but as she lit her stove and began to fry the dough, it faded into the background. As darkness enveloped the city, the shadowy figures began to appear again. Each one approached silently, and Mama Ola served them with precision and delight. Their hunger seemed insatiable, and she soon realized that the more she sold, the more they came. It was a strange dance of business and the supernatural. With every puff puff she sold, her confidence grew. The city, filled with hardship, suddenly felt vibrant and full of possibilities. The artness of her customers became a source of pride. She was catering to a clientele that few others could reach. But as her profit soared, she began to notice peculiarities. The figures would linger longer than they had the previous night, and their eyes seemed to glow with an otherworldly hunger. A chill ran down her spine, but the success of her sales kept her anchored in the moment. She dismissed her unease, thinking it was just fatigue from the long nights. As the days turned into weeks, Mama Ola continued selling Puff Puff late into the night. The strange figures became familiar to her. She recognized their silhouettes as they approached her stand. She began to observe their mannerisms closely. They never spoke, always wore the same tattered clothes, and their movements were smooth yet unnaturally silent. One evening, as she served her ghostly customers, she caught a glimpse of a woman in a flowing white dress. This woman's face was obscured, but Mama Ola felt a strong pull toward her. She turned to grab more Puff Puff from her basket when she heard a low whisper behind her. "Help us!" Startled, Mama Ola whipped around, but the woman was gone. A wave of confusion washed over her. Was she imagining things? Doubt seeped into her mind, but she brushed it aside. Her business was thriving, and that was all that mattered. As time passed, however, a sense of dread began to build within her. The customers grew more demanding, and the weight of the strange coins in her bag felt heavier, almost oppressive. Each night became a blur of frying dough and silent exchanges, and the joy of her newfound success faded, overshadowed by an unsettling feeling. One evening, as Mama Ola was closing up her stand, her neighbors began to gather around, casting suspicious glances at her. One woman, Ayatalu, who had always been her friend, stepped forward. "Mama Ola, we've been worried about you. You've changed. You're always out at night now. Do you know how dangerous it is?" Mama Ola brushed off their concerns, but they persisted. "People say strange things happen when the sun goes down. You shouldn't be selling at midnight," Ayatalu warned, her face etched with concern. "I'm fine, really. My business is booming, and I'm making good money." Mama Ola replied defensively, trying to mask her growing fear. But their warnings echoed in her mind long after they left. Was she being foolish? Was there something sinister lurking in the shadows? Her thoughts were interrupted when the wind picked up, causing the nearby trees to rustle ominously. She shivered and decided to put away her stand earlier than usual that night. Ola, who had been concerned for her mother's safety, began to notice the changes in Mama Ola's demeanor. She had never seen her mother so consumed by her work, nor had she seen her so pale and fatigued. "Mama, are you sure you're okay?" Ola asked one night, her brow furrowed in worry. "You're always so tired. You don't have to do this alone. We can find another way." Mama Ola, filled with exhaustion and pride, replied, "I'm fine, Ola. I'm doing this for us. I'll make sure we have everything we need." But Ola wasn't convinced. She began to hear whispers in their neighborhood, stories of people selling to spirits after dark. She wondered if her mother had unknowingly opened a door to a world they were not meant to enter. Determined to find answers, Ola took to visiting the local market during the day, speaking with the older women who sold their goods. They warned her about the dangers of selling to spirits and the consequences of disrespecting them. As Ola gathered more information, she decided to confront her mother about the unsettling things she had learned, hoping to convince her to stop selling Puff Puff at night. One fateful night, Mama Ola stood at her stand, her heart racing with anticipation. She sensed that something was different about this evening. The air felt electric. The familiar figures began to gather around her, and she served them their usual order. But as she turned to grab more Puff Puff, she heard a soft rustling behind her. When she turned back, one of the figures, a tall man in an old suit, was standing very close, and the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Suddenly, he leaned in, and she felt an icy breath against her ear. "Stop selling to us, or you will pay the price," he whispered. His voice was low and haunting, sending chills down her spine. In shock, Mama Ola stumbled back, knocking over her basket of Puff Puff. As the snack scattered across the ground, she glanced up, only to find the figure staring at her with hungry eyes. Panic coursed through her veins. Was she truly selling to spirits? The question gnawed at her, and she felt trapped in a web of her own making. The The figures began to fade, but the warning lingered in her mind. Conflicted and scared, Mama Ola decided that this would be her last night selling Puff Puff at midnight. She would return to her normal routine, no matter the consequences. As dawn broke, Mama Ola returned home, her heart heavy with fear. She resolved to shut down her midnight stand and focus on daytime sales. But the following night, she found herself inexplicably drawn back to the street corner. The smell of freshly fried dough wafted through the air, and before she knew it, she had set up her stand once more. She rationalized her actions. She needed to support Ola and ensure their survival. Yet an uneasy feeling settled in her chest as night approached. As the clock struck midnight, the familiar shadows returned, but this time they were more aggressive. They pushed closer, their hollow eyes demanding attention. The ghostly figures were no longer the silent customers she had grown accustomed to. They were hungry for more. The chilling whispers surrounded her. "You cannot leave. You owe us." Their voices echoed in her mind, sending her into a panic. She felt an overwhelming force compelling her to keep serving them, despite her instincts screaming to run. In a desperate attempt to escape, Mama Ola closed her stand and tried to flee. But her feet felt rooted to the ground, as if she were being pulled back into their grasp. She was terrified. It was as if an unseen power had entrapped her, preventing her from breaking free. Frightened and desperate, Mama Ola sought help from an elderly herbalist known for his wisdom in the supernatural. She found him sitting outside his home, surrounded by herbs and spices as the sun began to set. "Please, I need your help. I've been selling to spirits, and they won't let me go. I fear I've made a grave mistake," Mama Ola confessed, her voice trembling. The herbalist's eyes narrowed, a knowing look flashing across his face. "You've dabbled with the unseen, and they do not take kindly to being disregarded. You've given them sustenance, now they want something in return. What do I do?" Mama Ola pleaded, desperation creeping into her tone. The herbalist took a deep breath and reached for a small pouch filled with herbs. "You must perform a ritual to appease them, or they will keep you bound to this fate. You need to gather certain items, a lock of your hair, a piece of clothing that you no longer wear, and a small offering of food. Only then can you break the spell." With newfound resolve, Mama Ola thanked the herbalist and hurried home. She gathered the items as instructed, her heart racing. She hoped this would be the key to freeing herself from the clutches of the spirits. That night, Mama Ola returned to her corner, but this time, she was armed with the herbalist's instructions. She set up her stand, taking a moment to prepare her offering. As she placed the items on the ground before her, she felt a shiver of dread wash over her. The spirits would be angry, she could feel it in her bones. As the midnight hour approached, the air grew thick with tension. The familiar shadowy figures emerged from the darkness, but this time, they did not approach her as they usually did. Instead, they floated menacingly, their eyes glowing with fury. "Why have you called us?" one spirit demanded, its voice echoing through the night. "You serve us, and yet you do not fulfill your end of the bargain." Panic coursed through Mama Ola's veins as she stammered, I brought you an offering. Please, accept it." The spirits seemed to swirl around her, their anger palpable. They were not satisfied with her feeble attempts to appease them. The cold wind whipped around her, and she could feel their presence pressing in on her. "More! We demand more," they hissed in unison, and Mama Ola felt her heart racing. She was at their mercy, and her efforts to break free felt futile. Meanwhile, Ola grew increasingly worried about her mother's late-night absences. She had noticed a change in Mama Ola. Her mother was thinner and looked haunted. Unable to bear it any longer, Ola decided to confront her mother again. "Mama, please stop this madness. I've heard terrible things from the market women. They say you're selling to spirits. You need to come home." Ola cried, tears brimming in her eyes. Mama Ola hesitated, guilt washing over her. "I'm doing this for us, my daughter. We need the money. I can't stop now." "But at what cost?" "You're in danger. These spirits are angry. You don't know what they're capable of." Ola's voice rose in desperation. "You need to stop before it's too late." Just then, the wind picked up, causing the streetlight to flicker ominously. A bone-chilling howl echoed through the street, sending shivers down both their spines. It was a stark reminder of the supernatural forces that surrounded them. Mama Ola's resolve began to waver. "What do you suggest I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have to find the herbalist. There has to be a way to end this, to release you from whatever you've unleashed." Ola insisted, grasping her mother's hand tightly. Reluctantly, Mama Ola agreed, realizing that her daughter was right. It was time to confront the spirits once and for all. The next day, Mama Ola and Ola rushed to the herbalist's home, desperation etched on their faces. They found him sitting outside, his demeanor calm despite the storm of anxiety swirling within them. "We need your help. My mother is in danger from the spirits she has been selling to. They are angry, and we don't know what to do," Ola exclaimed, her voice frantic. The herbalist regarded them with a solemn expression. "You've summoned forces you do not understand. To break their hold, you must perform the ritual during the next full moon. But be warned, it will not be easy. The spirits will not release their grip without a fight." Mama Ola nodded, her determination renewed. "What must we do?" "You must gather your offerings again, but this time add a few drops of your blood to the mix. It signifies your willingness to sacrifice for your freedom," the herbalist instructed. "You must also confront the spirits directly and show them that you will not be their servant any longer." With the herbalist's guidance, Mama Ola and Ola began to prepare for the ritual. They gathered the necessary items, their hearts heavy with fear and anticipation. The sun dipped low in the sky, and they knew the full moon would soon rise. As the moon rose high in the night sky, Mama Ola and Ola set up their ritual at the same corner where Mama Ola had once sold Puff Puff to the spirits. The air crackled with tension as they arranged the items before them, including a small bowl filled with a few drops of Mama Ola's blood. Suddenly, the spirits materialized around them, their forms swirling and shifting, their eyes glowing with an ethereal light. "What do you seek?" one spirit bellowed, its voice booming and resonating in the night air. "You dare to defy us?" Mama Ola felt fear grip her heart, but she knew this was her moment. "I seek to break your hold over me. I will no longer serve you," she declared, her voice steady despite her fear. The spirits hissed, their faces contorting in rage. "You cannot escape. You are bound to us. Your offering is meaningless," they screeched, their voices echoing ominously. Ola stood beside her mother, clutching her hand tightly. "We are not afraid of you. We will not let you control us anymore," she shouted, her voice strong and defiant. The spirits recoiled, swirling around them in a furious tempest. The ground shook, and the air turned cold as they roared in protest. But Mama Ola and Ola stood firm, their resolve unwavering. Just as it seemed the spirits were about to unleash their wrath, a blinding light erupted from the moon, illuminating the street in a surreal glow. The spirits halted, their expression shifting from rage to confusion. "Who dares interfere?" one spirit roared, its voice trembling with a hint of fear. From the shadows emerged a tall figure, cloaked in shimmering light. "I am the guardian of the night," the figure proclaimed, its voice calm and commanding. "These spirits are bound by their own greed, and they must learn that they cannot take without giving back." Mama Ola and Ola stood in awe as the guardian approached, the spirits parting to make way. "You have shown great courage in confronting your fears. Your sacrifice has not gone unnoticed." The spirits began to wail, their forms flickering as they struggled against the guardian's presence. "You will not take her," one spirit shouted, desperation tinging its voice. The guardian raised a hand, and the night grew still. "Mama Ola, you must choose. Release your attachment to this place and your fear, and you shall be free." As Mama Ola contemplated her choice, the spirits began to circle around her, pleading and cursing. "You cannot abandon us. You owe us." The choice weighed heavily on her heart, but as she looked at Ola, she realized what she needed to do. "I choose freedom," she declared, her voice unwavering. As she spoke those words, the spirits shrieked in anguish, their forms dissipating into the night air. The guardian nodded, a soft smile gracing its ethereal features. With a flash of light, Mama Ola and Ola felt an overwhelming wave of energy wash over them. The spirits were gone, their grip released. However, the cost of their freedom lingered in the air, leaving the story open-ended. The city settled into silence as the Guardian faded back into the shadows, leaving Mama Ola and Ola standing together, shaken but relieved. They had faced the unknown and survived, but the question remained, what would happen next? Would they be safe from the spirit's return, or had they only delayed the inevitable?